quiz today. How are you doing?
Hi, Elizabeth. I'm Jennifer. I'm doing okay.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. So I have received a prescription to perform an occupational therapy evaluation via telehealth for you today. And my first question for you is, do you know what OT is?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, occupational therapists are therapists that specialize in getting you back to doing what you need and want to do. So oftentimes there's something that has gotten in the way of you doing some tasks and you would like some help getting back to those. And so I'm interested in hearing from you what you want to do, and then you and I can come up with a plan together to get you to be able to do all of those things that you need and want to do. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so for the evaluation, I'm going to be using the Occupational Performance History Interview, and this is a 3-part test. The first part is an interview, and it kind of allows me to guide our conversation, but I really want to hear answers from you and make sure that you and I are on the same page. And then while we're having that interview, there's a part that's called the rating scale. And so I'm just going to be writing some answers down on a 4-point scale from 4 being exceptionally competent in occupational functioning to 1, which is extremely occupationally dysfunctional. So this is neither good nor bad. It just lets me know certain areas that might be a good idea for us to target in our treatment. And then finally, we're going to fill out what's called a life history form. And I'm going to do that at the end of the interview to make sure that you and I are on the same page and that I've gotten all the information that I need to have from you and that you make sure that I have heard everything correctly. Okay?
Okay.
So, do you have any questions about the test?
How does this relate to how you defined OT?
So this is going to give me an idea about who you are and kind of what you do, and by understanding you as a person, I can help you in looking at different areas, and we can guide our treatment based on this interview. And chances are good that we'll revisit it as we go through treatment so that we can make sure that we're getting on target and meeting some goals. Okay?
Okay. And do you usually do this on Skype?
Actually, no. Most research has shown that this is successful in a community or a medical setting where you see the patients long term. However, because you and I will be working together for a longer period of time, then I would like to make sure that I have enough information, and this will help us develop that plan. So I believe it will work via Skype. And also, you are in your home, and so I can look around and you can kind of show me areas where you may be having troubles or different things in your home so I can see where you are in your world, okay?
Okay, so who do you usually do this with?
Usually this works for patients with physical or mental changes in their lives that impacts their performance. So some typical diagnoses and research include spinal cord injury, schizophrenia, and people with anxiety and depression, as well as others. So, a wide variety of people.
Okay.
Now, this test is a little bit personal, so I want to see, are you home alone or at least comfortable with the people who are around you?
Yep, I'm home alone.
Okay. Then, if at any point you feel uncomfortable answering some questions, please let me know, and we can pause and take a break and come back to that question, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Would you like to start with some example questions?
Sure.
Okay, so my first question for you is, tell me a little bit about yourself. Do you currently work or are you in school?
I'm in school right now.
Oh, excellent. So what kind of responsibilities or things do you have to do as a student?
I'm responsible in getting myself out the door on time, getting to class, doing homework, things like that.
Okay. And then I'll write these things down and we'll talk about them a little bit further, and that's sort of how the questions will go. Do you have any questions about the test before we continue with the interview?
Are you just going to ask me about what I do then?
Okay, so we have 5 sections in this interview. The first one's called Occupational Roles, and it's kind of what you do and who you are. We'll talk about your daily routine, So what you regularly do, and we'll talk about days of the week and weekends. The occupational behavior settings, so where you do all of your roles and routines. Your activity and occupational choices, so all of your choices that you make and what you do and why you came to those decisions. And then finally, we'll talk about critical life events. So that will be the more personal topics. And like I said before, if you feel uncomfortable when we're answering these questions, then we can take a break. But I'm hoping at the end, you and I will have a bit of a story going and we'll feel comfortable with that. Does that sound all right?
Yep.
Okay.
Time out. So before you use the Ophi-Ii, it's important to know the strengths and limitations of it. Some of the strengths are that it's very individualized and there are different options for administration. It's very helpful in treatment as well as consultation. There's been research and improvements from the original so that it's more valid and reliable. There are also studies showing that majority of therapists would use it in practice, so it seems to be helpful. It's designed across cultures and is available in other languages. It also helps in rapport building because some of the topics are so personal that it can help build strong relationships with the therapist. It also allows the therapist to grade themselves because there's guidelines for questions that you can ask as well as just blank sheets of paper at the back to write down notes. And some of the limitations are that the questions are personal, as we mentioned, so rapport should be built prior to asking them. And since it's only semi-structured, it's also somewhat subjective and the order can be changed and different areas might be focused on. And then one of the other limitations is that there's a large amount of research for the original Ophi-Ii, but not much for the Ophi-Ii. Timing.
Great. Let's get started.